walk down and flush them out.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
What's going on, family? How y'all doing? And this week, yes, Dwayne Dwyer, affectionately known as the Mindset Coach, is here. But this week, the lot fell on me, so I got the main seat today, and I'm just glad that you can be here. I'm just glad that I'm sitting here with my brothers, and we ready to get this thing started. So, brothers, how y'all feeling today?
I'm good, man.
I'm doing
okay.
good.
No, you go ahead.
I'm doing good, man. Shoot, the new Call of Duty came out last night, so I done got it downloaded and everything. I didn't put in, start playing a little bit of the campaign mode. I ain't necessarily shooting them out or plugging them nothing, but I'm just saying, I've been over here relaxing and taking an intentional time to do some self-care. You know what? I'm spending some time with myself. And actually, Shell was in here earlier when I was playing. She was doing something on the phone, and I was watching TV. So we over here kicking it like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, man, I'm good. Busy week. Lot of moving parts, but you know what? It's awesome to be sitting here on another Friday, sharing in conversation with these awesome gentlemen right here in the most livest chat on social media. So I'm good. All is well.
Hey, listen. My Knicks got beat up game one. My Giants look like a dumpster fire. But my Yankees is in a World Series starting tonight. So, how much better can it get? The Yankees is back, baby. But I'm good though.
Hey,
I'm with my brother.
exactly. We gonna need you to have that Yankees might win energy. You gonna have to come with it, because we're expecting great things out of you with this conversation tonight. And as always, we love the people that come and support us week in and week out. We're appreciative because not only do you show up, but y'all show out in the chat. When y'all show up in the chat, y'all make sure you add value to what's being said. If you got questions, if you got comments, y'all throw it out there and you hold no punches. So we appreciate you. And we appreciate Crystal Everett, Miss Teresa Austin, Michelle Ray, Adrian Artis, Miss Nodella Jordan, and ain't nobody go try to say that name. Miss Lisa Keys, and let's see, Adrian Walthour, my homie, and and that's about it that I can see right now. But if there anybody else that I didn't get to say while we're going, charge it to my eyes and my head, not my heart, because I respect you for sharing your time with us and showing up so that we can have this conversation on the night. Because once again, it's a Friday night and I'm here with my brothers. And the topic is one that when you think about this topic, we're gonna try to add value. It's how to have authentic conversation for a stronger connection. So now it's gonna pan off, and it's gonna be me, and I'm gonna say my little spiel. Have you ever felt uncomfortable or out of place while talking to somebody? Ever been having a conversation and didn't know how to respond, or it just felt unalive? Well, we've all been there at some point or another. The good thing is that this is something that, with a little practice and a little know-how, it can be changed. And you can feel comfortable about speaking your mind or having a listening ear that will assist you in strengthening those important relationships that you have in your life. And so we expect you to join in this conversation tonight in this chat as we take a dive into tonight's topic of how to have authentic conversations for stronger connections. Now, brothers, when I thought about this topic, I was kind of stumped because I'm like, okay, we aren't talking about having conversations like you sitting on the train, sitting on the bus, sitting at the bus stop, sitting somewhere, and a stranger comes up and they start talking. So you can strike up a conversation with somebody that you don't know about anything. We're talking about how can you have that deep conversation, that conversation of substance with somebody that you think add value to you, that you have a relationship with where you want it to flourish, that you have this conversation where it may be hard sometimes, but it has to be said or it needs to be said. We want to know how it is that when you have people in your life that you care about, but you don't know what to say, you don't know how to say it, and you don't necessarily want to say the wrong thing, how is it that we can come and have these conversations? So before we just jump into the questions, I want to know what when you just look at the title, what did you guys think?
When I look at the title, I'm looking at, I immediately look at relationships. I look at the relationships that I have with people, right? And I think about if I ever had to have a conversation with someone, how would it be? If we were on this show and Roland or Gaddy or Coach said something, they cut a joke, and the joke, maybe I thought that it was inappropriate, and it got to me. Would I be able to have the conversation afterwards? You know what I mean? Have the tone already been set for the conversation going forward? So that's kind of what I think about right now when I look at this, because if something is going on, and Roland says something that hurt my feelings or that maybe I thought was inappropriate, then, like I said, have the tone been set for the relationship that we can have the conversation and that we leave the conversation with a solution or a better understanding of whatever went on. So that's the way I'm looking at this right now, just to kind of jump out there and jump on this grenade. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat when I look at how to have authentic.
and get out my boat. No, I'm just picking.
Hey, sometimes you might get tired paddling. You got that marathon. I gotta, help you. I catch the other side. I got you. Yeah, but
Like I can say, who's going to help me carry the boat?
Exactly. Hey, and that's part of that relationship piece. You know what I mean? But I look at it in a sense of we cannot be afraid to fix things because of feelings or because of the desire to be liked or whatever the fear is. We have to be be willing to communicate, to speak openly, whether we're the initiators of the conversation or not. And it's because the strength and the future of this relationship lies on it. There's a lot of friends that I used to be really close with that we cool when we speak, but no harm, no foul if we don't speak. And somewhere along the line, the communication changed. We stopped having tough conversations, or maybe we grew up and didn't know how to have certain conversations with each other as adults. So I see this conversation as just like how do I keep our relationship between me and Coach, me and Ro strong for the future, and it's through conversation.
My initial thoughts with this topic is along the lines of a old saying that says the biggest myth um, that exists about communication is assuming that it happened. And so I think when it comes down to communication, whether it be authentic, um, or not, I think most people assume that they're actually pretty good communicators until they actually come up against a good communicator. And then they realize that their communication style isn't really as good as they thought it were. So I think that's the thing. I think sometimes we give ourselves far too much credit when it comes down to communication. And then at the end of the day, we become extremely rebellious when it comes down to another person who communicates at a higher level. So that's where I'm going to pause right there.
Yeah, and when I was thinking about it, I thought about the word authentic and stronger connections. Because when you think about authenticity or authentic, you think about truth. You think about the truth. So, like we can talk about San Francisco, and we can talk about Detroit, and we can talk about ball games, but when it comes to things of substance, sometimes we tend to back off from those conversations, and then we have superficial connections instead of these strong connections that as we go along in this topic, hopefully we'll dive into more more things that, as my grandmother would say when she was talking about eating, and I want to eat some Fruity Pebbles for dinner, and she say, no, you need something that's going to stick to your ribs. So she, I think hopefully something going to come out of this conversation where it'll stick to your ribs. It'll help you tomorrow. It'll help you along the way. So we're going to jump right in along and jump into our first question. What are some tone setters when it comes to people being comfortable enough to open up?
Man, I'll speak from self. Shutting up, right? Keep my mouth shut. All right. So here's what I mean by that, right? A lot of times when people are having a conversation and someone wants to present some information to them, especially if they're going through something, there's nothing worse than having somebody constantly interrupt you, right? I have been so guilty of this. I have been so guilty of people coming to me and sharing with me, and then I immediately turn it back on I went through this, and I remember when I did this, or I should do this, or if I were you, right? So I take their situation and turn it back on me. And a lot of times because I'm not actively listening. So I think that one of the big tone setters is when it comes to people being comfortable enough to open up is setting a tone of a place of listening, paying attention, not talking, shutting your mouth when someone is trying to present or trying to share with you. So I just kind of want to start right there. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, I'm gonna start right there.
A phrase that I heard a few years back. I've heard it longer than that, but I heard it more often a few years back, and it was, no one cares how much you know till they know how much you care, right? So when we start making people feel comfortable enough to open up, we have to sometimes let them know that we care. A part of that is the relationship piece, right? You can't be a person who's never act like they've cared before, and then all of a sudden say, "I care. Tell me what you feel." No, because I don't feel safe. And part of the piece that keeps people from getting comfortable is people not feeling confident with you. Um, and some of it is kind of what Unc pointed out, those me statements, or sometimes I need you to hear me more than I need you to correct me right now. Correct me later, but let me. I'm in a space where I have to let go, and I can't let go if I'm not confident with you, or if I don't feel safe with with my expressions with you, because I don't know how you're going to handle it. So it's
So,
just a part of showing people how we care.
so what I'm hearing you say is that it's my responsibility to make you feel comfortable.
No, it's my responsibility to make sure I'm not in the way of your comfort.
Say more.
So if I'm a person who says, oh, every time you say, well, I had a hard day, this happened, this happened, this happened. Well, you should have did this, you should have that. You probably was doing this like you always do. Well, if you and now what I have done, I've created a relationship. You might understand me that I'm gonna turn it back around on you all the time. It might be useful sometimes, it might not be, but I become the barrier. My personality in your eyes has become the barrier that keeps you from being able to get comfortable opening up and speaking with me.
I'm gonna be good this weekend, y'all. I promise.
I feel it
No,
already.
no.
Yeah, 'cause I was thinking he was about to go with he's starting to being overly accommodating. I think that can work against you. That's why it sounded like he was about to, you know what I mean? But
I'm,
I want to hear
I'm,
what you
go-
got to say.
I'm just gonna put that on the shelf for right now.
Okay, yeah, let's shelf
I'm
that.
sure it will surface again later because I'm an advocate of that. I think when it comes down to some tone setters, some tone setters when it comes to people being comfortable, not me making you comfortable. It's not my job to make you comfortable, but people being comfortable. It's two people that exist in a space to where communication is available. What does that mean? That means your maturity is your responsibility, my maturity is my responsibility. That's where we can actually have authentic conversation, which simply means that you can relay information to me. I become curious about exactly what you mean. I generally do that through the art of active listening, asking questions, responding, parroting, paraphrasing, summarizing, things of that nature, and then responding exactly to what you're saying. I think too many times when it comes down to communication, people respond with what they want to respond with, but they don't necessarily respond to the other person and what they're saying or whatever the case may be. So now we're having a fair, and I'm using that term as an adult, right? We have a fair exchange of ideas, understanding, responses, things of that nature to where communication is happening. Not one person being overly accommodating because at the end of the day, you have an issue articulating yourself, and that person is trying to understand what you're saying. They're asking questions and things of that nature, but it didn't come out right. So then you get mad at that person because they heard you wrong. Maybe you said it wrong.
Were you about to say something, Gabby? Okay. And I like where you went with that because I wrote down almost what you said verbatim when I said it can be seen as not being authentic if you are overly accommodating. If you got to set everything a certain way. Now I'm moving by your feelings. I'm moving by this instead of moving by the conversation. Because when I listen to the conversation, okay, you flip yourself over to the side. When I'm listening to the conversation, if I'm listening to the conversation, actively listening, now my demeanor and my posture and everything, the demeanor, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but they're tone setters. So when you're looking at demeanor, if I'm acting like you bothering me, you won't be too apt to want to have a conversation with me like, oh, I'll talk to you later because you seem annoyed or whatever. If my posture is I'm watching the football game or the basketball game and I'm offish or whatever, that's one of those things that, you know, like if I'm listening to you, I'm listening to you. And I tell people sometimes when I listen, I write so that I can focus. It's that old ADHD thing. I write or something so that I'm paying attention. And I, as Coach said, that active listening means that I'm responding to exactly what you're saying, letting you know this is what I heard, so that it's not a misunderstanding, because you may say something and I may have thought I heard it this way. So when I repeat it back to you, now you have the time so that you can either say, no, this is what I said, or no, this is how I meant it, or whatever. That way the conversation can continue and there are no barriers right there, because sometimes the barriers are in the person's mind versus in actuality.
You said something that I just thought about. You know, you was talking about, you know, when you were watching the game, you know, it seemed like when we first talked about, everybody kind of answered it as being the person that someone is going to come to. But where you kind of came from was like the person where, just for a little bit, the person who have the issue and they're going towards somebody, right? So say for instance, you know, Shay was upset about something and I'm watching the game, right? You know, part of setting the tone, I think that person has a responsibility too. You know, if I'm sitting there and I'm zoned in and I'm watching the game, that may not be the best time to strike up a conversation about why did you not hang up your shirt? You know what I'm saying? So maybe being able to read the room and setting the tone is sometimes waiting for the right time to have the conversation. So I think when it comes to setting the tone, I think timing is appropriate and should be taken in consideration when we're having a conversation as well.
Timing and environment. Like if we out at dinner and you want to talk about something serious that may be heated,
Yeah,
time for that. Because if I go here and we're in a setting, that's not the proper place for that. And that's like me and my daughter earlier, we were having a conversation. And I had the music on upstairs. Music was loud. She was trying to do something in her room. And as she was, you know, when I'm talking to her, she started to walk off. And I guess she seen my face like, oh, like, hey, I'm talking right here. So she said, no, I'm going to get the stuff so I can bring it out here, because if I'm talking from the room, I can't hear because of the music and everything. So what she was doing was canceling out one of those perceived barriers. Because if I got to yell over the music and she can't hear, now I got to keep saying things over. And if we're having a conversation that has any meaning, then something could be lost in that. So now she came to show her attention. Hey, I'm attentive to what you're saying. And she didn't just say, you know, she wasn't pouting or anything like that. She went and she said, no, she explained what she was doing. Sometimes, I can't say everybody, but I know me as a man, sometimes I feel like I ain't got to explain myself. Even like you should just know. And I know some other men that may be like that. And that's not the proper way to be when it comes, if you want to communicate yourself with somebody else. You can't be the person who's always flipping or always in a position of frustration, because then that puts them in that same posture. Everybody good on that one?
Yeah, I'm just over here trying to figure out what the two is.
Oh, over in the chat.
No, Gaddy's name. The two.
I was trying to tell you, when I had to switch devices, I was trying to tell you I fat fingered and it put me in the studio, and now I can't change it, but we ended up going live. I left it alone.
Okay.
It's a tone setter, bro. That's a tone setter. All right, my bad. I'm good.
Dang. That let me know I ain't even introduced y'all. So hopefully they already know you. You know, that's that's Coach, that's the available man. And you know, myself over here, yes, I got a San Francisco hat on. Nephew played for San Francisco. So yeah. How can vocabulary set the tone of the conversation?
Man, I'm jumping on this one right off the bat. No shade to my sister Kim. I love you, sis. I love you, but I'm about to talk about you right now. All right. If my mom watching, don't tell her. But anyway, my sister's a nurse practitioner. My sister's has always been very, very bright. She's always been a reader. She always made the honor roll in high school. I think she flew through college and all of this stuff. And now she's a nurse practitioner. So being that she's a nurse practitioner, she has a broad vocabulary, right? Especially when it comes to medical terms. However, her her younger brother and myself, I do not. So if I am calling and I am asking about knee pain, I don't understand the 14 and 27 letter words that she used when she's trying to communicate with me. So there becomes a barrier. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the type of words that you use in the communication that you use and the vocabulary that you use when you're having a conversation is very important, and it easily sets the tone. If Shell has a doctorate in communication and speech, and I have just not no shade to anybody who didn't graduate, but I have an 8th grade education, and I can't read past Dr. Seuss, and I don't understand certain words. Her speaking to me in her doctoral degree language I may not understand it. So I think sometimes, back to reading the room again, knowing the person that you're talking to and having a conversation with, and adjusting the conversation appropriately, not being overly accommodating and not necessarily dumbing down yourself. But excuse me, but at the same time, if the information that you're giving or that you're transmitting is not being received, then it's no good. So it's not necessarily about dumbing down. It's more so about using the appropriate vocabulary and words while you're having a certain conversation, so it can set for a good tone for a conversation.
And, Unc said a lot of it, almost all of it. Really, you can't really get much clearer. You have to speak to where the broad audience understands, right? Because if the communication is one way, like many of us here have been public speakers in one setting of our life or the other, right? If we use military, all of us has been in the military. Go there. If we use military, if I get in front of the formation and I'm an ex-Marine and I start trying to get the formation ready for PT using Marine command, all these soldiers gonna look at me like, what the heck is he talking about? It's gonna be mass confusion. I remember I remember when I was just starting preaching. I used to get told all the time, understand everybody in your audience is not at the same level, right? It's cool that you got a doctorate degree and whatever it is in basket weaving, but it don't mean you know what eschatology, soteriology. Don't mean you know what that means. And so if you're going, so if it's going to be in an audience that broad, if I have to use those words, then I should be willing to explain what they mean, not insulting someone's intelligence to ensure that the audience understands what you're saying. So and if it's a one-on-one conversation, hopefully I have a relationship with you before we have to have the serious conversation, that my vocabulary, so I know not to use vocabulary that either goes over your head or what have you, that's in the scope of what you understand. This is why when I speak, sometimes I'm still in the military some days, so sometimes I'll say things and then coach you go type in the meaning of it in the chat. I'm not smarter than anybody in the chat. Yeah, you done that to me. But I understand, because I'll say a term that soldiers understand, but not everybody in the chat is a veteran. Or even if they are not, who knows if they're all veterans from the Army? It doesn't make them less intelligent. It just means that I'm not speaking in the language that they understand.
So I will start with the use of adjectives, adverbs, and superlatives. It does not make you a more fluent speaker when you the use of adjectives, adverbs, and superlatives when you get a little heated about something and you want to express yourself in that fashion. That does not motivate any full grown adult. So removing those things from your vocabulary as best you possibly can in order to articulate yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you can't express yourself, but find a way to express yourself with another adult. That's the key. The use of, let's see, contempt, criticism, those C words. So those things tend to throw shade. And then what ends up happening is that that person, and I said it last night, if you guys with me, we come from the clapback culture. So when you throw shade, you start, contempt and criticism and things of that nature, it's probably going to come back at you. And then depending upon who you're talking about, it may come back a little bit more aggressive. It may come back a little bit more direct. So I think a lot of times we have a notion to the other C word is condescending. We tend to be condescending toward one another as well, as though you're talking to somebody in a particular in a particular nature, as though they're beneath you or some of in some capacity. That does not lead to a healthy communication output. Like that does not make that other person want to respond in a loving, caring way. So I think all of these things, when we start looking at them, contempt, criticism, condescending, adjectives, adverbs, and superlatives, all of those things together, if we can kind of remove those things out of our communication, then what you will find is that it will kind of set the stage for more healthy communication. And then at the end of the day, that person generally will respond to you the way that you approach them.
And I love how you guys broke that down and you went to straight vocabulary, and I love it. And how my mind was thinking when I wrote the question and when I was thinking about it, I wrote that when it comes to the words, the vocabulary, even from the receiver or the sender, coach, you always say words have meaning. So that means they matter. What you say matters. So what you say about yourself matters. If I ask you if you're going to do something and you tell me, like if I say, hey, coach, are you going to be whatever? And if you have a goal of something and you say, I'm trying, already you put a limit out there in the atmosphere and on yourself. So now you're trying limited your thinking. So now, like, I might do it, I might not, because trying means that if I achieve it, cool, it almost gives you a way out. Whereas if you say, yeah, I'm gonna do it, I may do it little by little, but it's gonna get done. And it sets the mentality for the conversation. And the mentality means a lot when you're talking about goal-oriented people, because it's like in the movie Major Payne when he was telling what's his name, Little Tiger, the story, and he was telling the story of the little engine getting over the mountain. He was like, I think I can, choo choo. He was doing that. See what that story does, it tells you that you may be small, you may be slow, but if you keep trying and if you keep going, then eventually you can get over the hill. See, when our vocabulary, what we say about ourselves and what we say about our situations matter. Because if they didn't, you would, when you talk nasty about it, nasty wouldn't show up. But when you talk negatively about your situation and everything is downward, you notice that your demeanor becomes downward. Your posture about the situation becomes downward because you spoke it into existence instead of speaking life into it. And I'm not one of them people and I understand that the scripture says that there's life and death is in the power, death and life is in the power of the tongue. But it's not talking like I can say, I hope you die. Because if it had been so, my mama would have been that way a long time ago. Because every time she gave me a beat down, that's what I would go in my room saying under my breath. It was saying how, and it was a legal term where when the 2 or 3 came, what you said had validity towards this person whether or not we gonna stone them outside the city. So tell the truth. So when you speak to your situation and you tell the truth about it, how you see it, not how it necessarily is right now, then life comes. Then you can look at it and say, that's why if you say I'm trying, if you say I can't, like, and we all know as parents, when the kid, oh, come on, we working on tying your shoes. I can't do it. Yes, you can. You just lazy. You don't want to do it, but you keep on working with them. And then that can't turns to, man, I can actually do it. You've given them a way to not have that out, but to go forward and do the thing that they didn't think they could do. Because when they say things like can't and won't, especially in a conversation with another person, those are deal breakers. If you say, like, if you talking, and I know, Coach, you deal with couples, and somebody say, well, I won't take that. That's a deal breaker. You saying you don't want to work on the relationship because it's all about you. So we have to change our vocabulary so that it's more fruitful to a happy ending, to a better end goal than just, nah, I'm done with it.
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
It's more of a question. All right. What happens when I'm having a conversation and I unintentionally use some vocabulary words or use some language or something that affects or that disrupts the tone of the conversation? What am I supposed to do then? Because the reality of it happened, right? We all go down there. I said something. We're just having a conversation. Boom, something was said. Something may have been, someone may have been triggered. I may have unintentionally said something to cause a reaction from the other person. And now the tone may have been disrupted. So what happens when I did something unintentionally to disrupt specifically my vocabulary, to disrupt the conversation? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at this one, and then you guys can shoot. I look at it just like I used to tell my kids, like my grandma told me, where you act out, that's where I'm gonna show out. I think when you notice you made a mistake, when you notice that a correction is needed, instead of letting it linger, because it's gonna be on your mind, it's gonna be on your psyche, that's when you make the correction. You say, I didn't necessarily mean it like that. And you make the correction. And that's a part of being in a relationship, because we're not talking about strangers. We're talking about people that care for you and you care for them. So what you say and what you think matters. So if you're going to make a correction so that I have a better understanding, it only adds to the building of the relationship and the conversation.
I feel I feel the question, but in the same token, am I not friendly enough to give you grace in this conversation, to be a man, to be a human? Let me say that. Like, some conversations get to a point to sometimes you have a little moment of Tourette's, and you shout the thing out, and you pull it back, or there just may be a point of a vulnerable conversation or topic that's sprouted up, and like Roland said, if we're in a relationship, if we're brothers, if we homies, or whatever the case may be, whether or not I know that a trigger was hit, it doesn't matter. I can't allow you to have that moment and then be like, hey, bro, can we revisit this? Is that cool? At some point, we have to have that conversation. We have to finish this. We have to get back on topic. We should be able to have this dialogue. Like I understand what you're saying, but I also understand the aspect of being a friend on the other side. Like, I just may have just said something, or may have been in a conversation that triggered something, and so your response was what it was, and I should know you well enough not to take that response personal. And if it was a personal attack, then we have another conversation to have after this one. you know, like, hey, you know, what's going on? And we need to explore why this personal attack happened in the midst of this conversation. You know, so it just is like young folks said, there's levels to it. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all, you know, surface level all the time. But if it, so I see you, Coach. But I'm standing here.
I'm just sitting here. Why is y'all? Why stop? Just stop it. Listen, it's called the law of cause and effect. When you show me that energy, you're now subject to my response. Brace for it, because now I get to determine how I respond. Don't sit there and call me. Say, oh, you're supposed to be a child of God. No, we ain't gonna go there right now. You open this door. Now I'm fixing to come on in. Let's be transparent. Let's talk about real life. That's my whole point, right? Because that's what really happens. If somebody says something to get under your skin, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna let them know they got under your skin. It may not be at the same level that they deserve at that particular point in time, but they're gonna know they're about to wake the bear. And a lot of times, and I can't speak for nobody else, I'm gonna give you an out. That out gonna let you know you kind of crossed the line. I'm gonna give you an out, but you're gonna know I'm giving you an out. It would behoove you to take it, because when you keep down that path, I'm gonna give you too many more outs. I'm gonna meet you with the same energy and probably a lot more. So I'm hearing you. I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. That's what's supposed to happen. But look here, I'm still working on this thing right here. You don't know who I used to be. Look here, that cat right there told y'all how I used to talk. You see what I'm saying? You don't know who I used to be. Because trust me, this thing right here can put together some words, and by the time I get finished, you're gonna be like, wait, what? By that time, I already left the conversation. So that's the part I'm saying. Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm agreeing with you, but this is always a work in progress. So the work was me giving you an out. That's your opportunity to apologize right then and there. You don't take it, okay? Keep down that path if you want to. That's what I'm saying.
But that's what I mean about levels. Like, if we having a conversation and it's something or a conversation that just got heated, and it wasn't a person, it's just you. Your response got a little more emotion in it than where we were at. If I know you, I know I talked to Coach Austin. I talked to Roland Austin, right? I'd like to talk with Uncle a little more, all right? But I know my brothers well enough. I believe that if we have that conversation and it gets to that level, I know when to take it personal and when not. I know when it's an attack and when it's just an emotional response. And so that's what I mean. Like the levels. Like if you're at an emotional response, I should be able to have enough grace to let you get that out. And now,
why?
Why not?
Why? That was the question. Let's address the why first, then we can discuss the why not. Don't just throw it back at me. Why? Why should I exercise grace because you can't regulate your emotion?
Because I don't know what the thing is that triggered it. I don't know what that word or that conversation is attached to.
It don't matter though, because it was unintentional anyway. The fact that you were triggered, that's you. That's not me. That is you.
But do I have to join you in that level? Do I have to rise?
No, absolutely not.
No, that's what I was saying. That's what I said.
Like I'll let you get it out. Now let's bring it back.
But see, that's what I was saying. That's why I said I'm gonna give you an out. Me giving you an out, I am also letting you know you're skating on thin ice with me.
What's the out gonna look like?
I'm gonna let you know you cross the line real quick.
Hey, look, your mouth about to write a check.
It all depends.
In cash.
It all depends on where you met me at.
Hey, I'm understanding both sides, all three sides, but I'm wondering, like, maybe I don't think when I heard it, because I'm agreeing with Coach, and they know me, because I will say, dude, I'm trying not to say the N. And when my way of giving you out is I say, I'm trying not to continue saying the N word. That's one of my phrases. I say that because I'm letting you know you tiptoeing. But in what Unc said, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear that he said something. I thought it was like a mistake in his speech.
Yeah, unintentional.
Right. Not
It
that's
was unintentional. I think the conversation kind of grew from there. Kind of grew a little bit
I'm
later.
gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I grew it from there. Ain't no such thing as a mistake. Ain't no such thing as unintentional. You made a calculated decision. Well, see, we use words, and I'm just playing on words right now, right? But we use words that don't necessarily exist. If you thought about a thing and did the thing, it's not a mistake. It's a decision. And I think if we meet it right there, that's where we need to be at. We use the word mistake too loosely. And I'm not knocking on you, Unc. I'm just saying it's in just general normal vocabulary. A mistake is not a mistake. A mistake is a bad decision that we made. Own it, right? Own it, relinquish it, repent from it, whatever the case may be, then we can move on. But if you don't want to own it, you start two-stepping and rope-a-doping, it's about to be real.
But I think the other side of that too is that if I am genuinely just using vocabulary or words from where I'm at, and I say something to coach, to Roland, and I genuinely did not do it intentionally. I didn't know I did it. You know what I'm saying? So then I think it's part of his responsibility to own his part too. Like, bro, look, Unc didn't say anything intentionally. You know, this is just how he talks. He's not being funny. He's not being any type of way. Y'all don't know each other that long, so that's why you don't understand how he talks and how he displays certain vocabulary and certain words and stuff like that. So I think both people, who is ever at fault, if it's like you said, if it's intentional in certain things, everything ain't a mistake. Like you said, certain things you know, but for the things that you don't know, I think it's on the other person to understand that too.
Right. That understanding
their portion.
Right. That understanding is me giving you an out. That's the point I'm saying. The out is the out. When you hear it, you're like, oh, my bad. I didn't mean no harm by that, bro. Okay, cool. That happened to me one night on TikTok. Brother called me straight inward. I said, hold on, bro. I ain't nobody that. He said, oh, my bad, dog. I didn't mean nothing by it. It's okay. We cool. And we just kept right on moving like it was no tomorrow. But a lot of times what people tend to do is they play rope-a-dope because
hold on to it. Don't say nothing. Hold on to it for 6 months. Oops,
it is a habitual act. It is a habitual act that they're doing. And in their mind, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, no, that's not true. If that person telling you that you did something wrong, you did something wrong. Own it. Now, maybe y'all can talk about what that wrong looks like after hey, this relationship is more important than me being right. So let me just, calm the storm real quick, and then we can have a sidebar later so I can have a better understanding of exactly what I did to, whatever, offend.
So, because Coach, you said something, and it's just a statement I want to say. I'm gonna say it in question form. You can answer it or you can leave it be. But what I heard was you said emotion does not remove your brain's ability to process before you speak.
That's not what I said. What I said is it could have been habitual. That's what I said. Now, when you start looking at,
no, I'm just kidding. Hey, I got to stop y'all here because y'all just roll right into my next question.
Why you stop us? Why don't you just let us just continue?
Man, this was good. I almost got my popcorn and stuff. Y'all had it going. And does your personal tone and engagement matter as much? Boom, continue.
I don't even want to talk right now.
So let me explain that why I said why I heard
leaving.
and so your personal tone and engagement, it matters, but as Unc brought up, understand it matters too. But the reason why I heard what I heard when you said what you said is because I think too many times when you talk about a mistake, just like the word you say a mistake or an intentional. A lot of times we use the term emotional response and stuff like that to say, I didn't have time to process it before I said it. Like, no, your brain processed it. It's just you allowed your emotions to win. And so you said the thing still. So I'm understanding, I'm believing that even though I'm emotional about the thing, my brain still processed what I was about to say. I still had a moment to let it, to say it or to keep it in. I still had a choice to make.
See, and that's one of those things where, the old saying that if you want to hear the truth, you'll hear the truth from kids, somebody who's inebriated, I say it like that, and somebody who's mad. So if we're having a conversation and you mad, you can't pull that back. You can't sit up here and say you didn't mean it. You can't say, yeah, you meant it, because you were probably trying to inflict a little force behind your conversation or whatever. But yeah, you meant it. So when we talk about personal tone and engagement, that matters, because if you are up here or down there, I'm reading what you're saying. I'm reading how you're saying it. So it's not like it's a mistake. It's not like you didn't mean it. Oh, you meant it, and yeah, you definitely meant it, and I got to take it like that. So now I got to see whether I'm mature enough to receive it in the manner to where we can still have this conversation. And because men talk at a certain level, and I know if you start getting loud, you should already know where I'm going. So that's why when we communicate, mature men, they know how to actually talk. And if they feel themselves getting a certain way, then that tone changing, oh, this going somewhere I ain't trying to take it. Because if you keep going there, I'm gonna ride with you.
Keep your child out my conversations. It's that simple. It's a time for the child in us to show up, not when we're having a serious conversation. When your child shows up in an adult conversation, I need to put the child back in the child's place.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go. So when I was thinking about this question just now, I couldn't help but to think about Antoine. Now, some of y'all might remember Antoine from Elevator Dialogue back on the Uncle Junior Network, right? If you haven't gone over, I'm gonna plug it real quick. Go on over there and watch some episodes. All right. So one thing I learned from Antoine is this. We were on the show. One of the things that people he used to kind of get knocked for and was his tone. And one of the things that Antoine said was that whoever he is with, they're going to understand that this is who he is, and they understand that this is his tone and this is how he presents himself. And the people that are okay with it, they're cool, and the people that are not, they're not. So I like this question, but I also think that the understanding of the conversation and how people respond in their tone and engagement in the relationship is just as, if not maybe even more important, right? So for some people, Antoine and specifically, for some people, he may have been a little bit more rough around the edges, a little more direct, and a little bit more stern with his tone, right? And for some people, they may not like that, right? But everybody in his circle, they're okay with that. So they all have an understanding of the tone and the engagement and everything like that. So I do think that personal tone and engagement, it matters. But I also think that the people in a relationship need to have an understanding of how each other's tone and engagement is. And I think that the more you in a relationship with somebody and the more you build and grow in that relationship, the more you'll be able to understand each other's personal tones and engagement as it goes further. And then if you continue to work on yourself, if someone does something and they kind of step out of line or they do something unintentionally, it should easily be recognized. And like Coach said, you should be able to get to it and resolve it just like that. Hey, I did something, my bad. All right, we still cool, and move on. So that's my 2 cents to this one.
Yeah, I mean, so I say things a particular type of way for a reason. But when the mature person hear what I said, like, yeah, that makes sense. But to the immature person, oh, that's messed up. That's messed up. You shouldn't be that. That's the person I'm talking to. You see what I'm saying? So if whoever's listening, if you were the person that was woofing in the background, I was talking directly to you. Because at the end of the day, mature adults did not have an issue with anything that I said. Because here's the deal. If we understand what the word says, if my brother trespass against me, rebuke them. Stern hard correction. That's a commandment. That's not a suggestion. If I take it as a suggestion, now I'm going to be subject for everything that happens after that. Because once I passively respond to a thing, oh, I just created a new norm. So that means you feel that you can talk to me any kind of way. And I don't think y'all met Sharon yet, because Sharon taught me a long time ago. If they hit you, hit them back. So I say that jokingly, but I'm serious. That was real. That was real upbringing for me. So at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer. The way you enter into a conversation is important. But the thing about this question that really catches my attention is as much. And my initial thought is what? As much as what? Right? Because that moves the needle depending upon who you're talking to. So if you ask me that question, that absolutely does. You ask Unc that question, he'd be like, yeah, it does. But you ask Gad that question, he'd be like, no, not so much. And I'm not saying that that's their responses. I'm just saying that it looks different from person to person when it is as much. But does your personal tone and engagement matter? Absolutely.
$100.
Yeah, I see you reaching, Gaddy. I don't know whether you're reaching to.
Now, Coach just said something, and then as he kept talking, he kind of said what I was thinking, so I left it alone.
Okay.
And
just to caveat on what Coach was saying, I think, yes, it does matter, because to me, tone and engagement lets me know where your respect level is with me. So if you have a flippant tone and you treat me like I'm your subordinate or I'm your soldier, that's why a lot of people in relationships, especially that were former military, the spouses say, I ain't your soldier. When you start talking crazy, to do this and do that, move, jump, and say how high and all that, when you start talking crazy, it kind of puts you in your place. And I'm one of them people, like, I'm a very easy person to get along with. Easy. But I will not allow anyone to talk crazy to me. I don't care who it is. Dwayne talked about Sharon. That ain't raised me like that. I can't just I'm gonna let it slide. No, I can't let it slide. Today, you're gonna think it's okay to do tomorrow. So I gotta nip it in the bud now, so you now know that this is unacceptable behavior when it comes to us having dialogue. If you want to talk to me, this is how we gonna talk. We ain't gonna talk. If you want to talk to them out in the street like that, that's fine. So when it comes to personal tone and engagement, it's my responsibility. I'm not gonna come to none of these brothers or sisters in the chat or anybody. If I come to you in a crazy manner, I expect crazy in return. I have to, because it's reciprocal. So now I can't just, that's one of them things. Yeah, don't do it. If you don't want somebody talking crazy to you, don't talk crazy to them. You had something?
Yeah. Before I went back and looked at this title of the show, I had wrote down a couple of things. And so is there a difference in how I answer this question? Like, so right now for today, we're specifically talking about authentic conversations for stronger connections, right? Well, in parentheses, for stronger connections. What about coworkers or just other people I come in contact with that I don't necessarily value the relationship? It may be somebody I'm passing through Walmart, whatever like that. You know what I mean? Does my personal tone and engagement matter? So a couple of things I wrote down, right? So I wrote down a fire, right? So if I was like, if Shell was laying in the bed, it's 2:00 in the morning, I smell smoke, I can't be like, hey babe, get up. It's a fire in the house. Like, I probably need to be yelling, get up, it's a fire in the house. We gotta get out of here, right? So my tone and my engagement needs to be a certain way, maybe to, no pun, but light the fire up under at 2:00 in the morning if the house is on fire. Another thing I started thinking about when I start thinking about engagement and tone is I think about preachers, right? I think about how, you get there and the preachers will be hooping and hollering. They be like, and get up off the floor. And all he said was get up off the floor, but the people go crazy. Like he said, get up off the floor, but his tone and his engagement and his inflection of the voice may be what got people riled up. So when it's come to just non-authentic conversation, I kind of just, for sake of time, I don't want to derail the whole conversation. I like Coach to just think about it, like or add something to it, like what is or do I handle it different if it's not a quote unquote authentic conversation, or I'm not necessarily looking to build a stronger connection? How does my personal tone and engagement matter then?
So that all depends on the environment, what's going to happen next, whatever the case may be. If we're talking about coworkers and we got to work together and we're continuing to work together, then we're going to go through the stages of team development. That is nothing more than storming. So storming is a process that we go through when it comes down to team development anyway. So yes, we're going to have to work through this, the storm that we find ourselves in. But if if we just pass in the store, again, you might get that look like, bro, I don't know who you think you're talking to or whatever. But yeah, I'm out. Because at the end of the day, let's be real. Am I going to sit here and go back and forth with a stranger? What value is that? I don't even know what this person's belief system is. I don't even know if they have the ability to carry on adult conversation, let alone authentic conversation. That might be the mass that I'm speaking to anyway. So yeah, I would put very little energy into having these type conversations with stranger unless this is the potential development of a relationship. Right now, we may, case in point, I'll use a great example. I know some people like to argue the scriptures. I'm not going to do that, right? Because here's the deal. Who is this person that I'm talking to? Do I know this person? Are we developing a relationship or whatever the case may be? I have my perspective of it. You have your perspective of it. And that's it, as far as I'm concerned. We may share our perspectives and let the chips will lie where it may. But some people want to get into a heated argument because they feel that they are right, not righteous, right? And so they fight for right. And for me, I'm good. I don't need to argue or fight with you about your perspective. It's yours. I agree that you believe what you believe. There you have it. That's the best I got. So if, like I said, it's different in those scenarios. Definitely workplace is different, but stranger, no.
Yeah, because strangers, you aren't necessarily trying to build. I mean, you may have a conversation about the weather and nothing really matters. Now, your behavior, the same way you behave here, should be the same way you behave anywhere. You shouldn't be a chameleon everywhere you go. And I understand that preachers and other people have certain tones, pitches and tones when they have a job to do that is speaking to people. That's what they do, and been there, done that, and that's part of that occupation, I guess. Now, we had a question. Miss Teresa Austin says, so when someone thinks that they can speak to you any type of way, are we supposed to be okay with it or correct them? I don't care who it is. I'm correcting whomever it may be. When correction is needed, it's required, you have to give it, because you got to let people know, no, you can't just talk any type of way to me. You can be mad all day, but it's still a certain way we're going to discuss this. You can, because just like I'm responsible for my bearings, I'm responsible for the words that come out of my mouth, I'm responsible for my behavior, so are you. And if we're in relationship, then us communicating, the only way we're going to communicate is like this. We're not going to communicate where everything is bouncing off the wall and everything. So, yes. And I don't know if you guys want to speak to that.
Oh, somebody getting checked, brother. Somebody getting checked. It is what it is. I don't have to accept, any and every type of behavior from somebody. I'll read the room first. I engage if I need to. If I need to walk away, I'll walk away. But it's okay to say something. Might not necessarily need to necessarily correct, but at least address it. Like Coach said, hey, that ain't what I go by. You know what I mean? It don't have to be a long, drawn out conversation and emails and all this horrible stuff. Sometimes you can just address it real quick. And in many cases, you have a couple of mature people, it'll be over with. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I do have a caveat.
Mm-hmm.
if you're the reason for the confrontation, you might want to take the response. Because if you don't take the response and then it starts to do the whole back and forth thing, now your confrontation is going to get worse. It's like you come in throwing rocks, somebody else pull out a blade. Now you show up with a blade, somebody else go get their little pew pew. You know what I'm saying? Like it escalates from that point on. So if you start it, find a way to ask for forgiveness quick, because starting something, then being corrected, and then getting mad at the correction, that's immaturity.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to, I saw it in the chat. The mantra, right? My boundary, my yard, my work. And sometimes my work means correcting something that goes against my body. I understand, but sometimes I think we take a phrase that we've learned or that we like, and we'll allow it to be misused. It don't mean that I don't have to. I don't demand a certain level of respect, right? Because I'm going to give me. I'm the type of person, like, I give respect when I speak to everyone, right? And I require the same respect in return. So either I'm going to walk away, address it, or you can catch these hands. You already know I do. I don't argue with grown men, so we're not going to do that. Like, why are we disrespectful to each other? Why are we condescending? Those type of things. If it happens, if I feel that way, I address it, because that's a part of the work in my yard. When they said the grass is greener on the other side, but somebody got to keep it up. And so you you come towards my grass and you start acting, no, stay over there on the sidewalk.
What are you talking about? Weed eating?
Nah, I mean, what is weed eating, mowing? I got to do the work, and that means I can't allow you to come into my yard and mess up the work that I'm doing. And so, and sometimes me working on myself is not allowing you to disrespect me, because I already know how I'm going to respond. I haven't put hands on someone in a while. Half the reason is because I don't allow people to speak to me in the kind of way. We just don't have to talk. Listen, my cutoff game is real smooth, Chief. I ain't got to talk to you. There's not a person in the world that I have to talk to all the time. If you're gonna disrespect me, then I mean, it's cool. That's who you are. Listen, we just gonna I'll holler at you. Never.
Some people will disregard and disrespect you. That's who they are. How do you manage that? You manage the time that you have with them. If you disregarding me and disrespecting me, you showing you have a lack. It's a lack for me. So one, I will speak to it in a manner where you can understand, and so it won't be the meek, mild, humble person that you may see. But I'm gonna let you know where I see it and give it to you straight how I take it, because sometimes I can be the offender, because I know that I've done a lot of work. I had to sit in a lot of classes to have the demeanor that I have. So sometimes if I just resort back to the old dude for a second, I know what happened. I know I offended. I know that, man. So now if we say we're spirit beings, my spirit will be vexed. So now if I offended one of these brothers, I got to come to them and say, dog, I know I was wrong as two left shoes when I came at you like this. And it's better when I say it, because if they let it fester, then they may come at it a different way and it may not go the way I would like it to go. But if I value that person and that connection, I got to bring it to the forefront, not to the attention, because everybody know. And I feel like if I said it with these three brothers, knowing I said it, I got to say it to where not only one of these brothers hear it, but where all three of these brothers know that, hey, I'm setting the record straight. That way, we all know that, hey, if you mess up, you can come and correct it. But when it comes to people just showing a blatant disregard and disrespect, if you allow it to happen continually, once, twice, you know it's going to happen the third time. And that's on you. So you have a glutton for punishment. I don't know if you guys got anything.
I told you my cutoff game is strong, Chief. If you just have if you like, listen, sometimes people will disregard. I'm done. Disregard means you don't even have an idea in your mind about respecting me. Like, when you think of me, this is how you're going to check rocks. Then you don't need to talk to me. I get it. I might have a condescending boss. Listen, I do my job very well without talking to my boss. Now, granted, he's gonna put out what he needs from me, what it requires from me, and there's situations where I have to limit it. But I could listen. If I have to talk to you every day, I'm going to address it. Or we can just limit our conversation. Our conversation need to be strictly professional, and let's leave it there. Or we need to get mediation in.
I take pause with this because I'm not convinced that the understanding of the answer to this question is a flat plane, right? Some people would disregard. Well, why did they disregard? Are you that annoying? That's something that we probably need to entertain at first. I think sometimes we don't think about it that way. We just think that they're disregarding me. Well, maybe I am getting on their nerves, getting under their skins, whatever the case may be. I will start there. Okay. Now, if I have searched myself and found out that I am not doing anything wrong, I'm doing everything in a godly manner, and so forth and so on, then them disregarding me might be a reflection of their own insecurities. That's number one. Number two, and disrespect you. I've learned that everything that people believe is disrespect ain't disrespect. It's just their perspective of disrespect. So have them to quantify, or you quantify what disrespect really means. Like, if you say disrespect, how did I disrespect you? Oh, because I didn't acknowledge you in the meeting. That's not disrespect. That's my prerogative. I don't have to acknowledge you in the meeting that I'm running. So if I'm running this meeting and you believe that you wanted your 5 minutes of fame because you had something very important to put out, well, is it actually on the agenda of the meeting? Because I think sometimes, especially in the workplace, right, we get like bogged down in meetings because everybody want to be the preacher on the mic when it's their time to speak. No, if I have a time frame, if I have an agenda, then I'm not going to come to you if you don't have a talking piece. You might be in the meeting to listen. Now, the others, I'm sorry, and keep it real. I'm sorry. The truth sometimes bear risk of somebody's feelings being hurt, but the truth really don't care one way or the other. The other side of it is, now, if it is really and truly authentic disrespect, I now have a responsibility to go to that person and ask them a question, to talk to them, not to hold them accountable, whatever the case may be, to ask them about their version of their behavior so that I can understand whether or not, this whole conversation, this whole disrespect thing is actually disrespect. So I would say it that way. Sometimes people will disregard and disrespect you because that's just who they are. Well, in relation to any type of, like, I'm careful with the pinning behavior to a person and making it their identity. That's like saying somebody didn't tell me the truth, and so now I'm calling them a liar, right? Don't do that. Because just because a person didn't tell the truth, everybody on this panel, everybody that's listening, everybody that's in the room, everybody that's out the room, you done told you a little white lie sometime. That does not make you a liar. That just makes you, in that particular time and space, you did not tell the truth. So I don't want to pin it to the person's character and say that that's who they are, because they're created by the creator. And I don't have the right to downplay what he created. So we got to be careful with that.
And
Yeah, I get all of that. I kind of see everybody's different perspective and different points and stuff. The way I'm kind of looking at it is, you got to kind of evaluate the entire situation. You know what I mean? Why did the disregard and the disrespect happen? Is this a one-time thing? Is this something that goes on consistently? So I think you got to look at that. You got to maybe even look at yourself. Nothing wrong with it. You can't go wrong anytime by looking at yourself about something, because sometimes we may have done something like we talked about earlier, unintentionally did something to somebody, and now they are just responding to us unintentionally doing something to them because of whatever reason. So I think it's okay to take a step back, look at yourself, assess the whole situation, look at the entire picture and then kind of go from there. It may be a situation where you do need to cut somebody off, like Gaddy say, but it may be a situation to where this ain't really that person. I had a family member that I had posted something and they didn't like it and they kind of went to business in on me. So I didn't cuss them people out or say you ain't my family. I just unfollowed them and I just still were friends on Facebook. I just couldn't see any of their posts. And then after a while, I started following them again. You know what I mean? And it was what it is. So I think that you got to kind of look at all the pieces before you just cut somebody off or something like that. Like I like what Gaddy said, but I also like what Coach said about it too.
I guess I'm looking at it I'm looking at it like me and Michelle know the same people. We got to, because there's some people that I know that just believe that they should be able to speak disrespectful. Here's a phrase that I've heard a lot.
I ain't talking about them people.
I hated this phrase when I was a kid, and I hate it as an adult. Well, that's just how I talk. Miss me. You ain't got to talk to me then.
Yeah, they don't talk to their boss like that.
Not at all. And there's some people that do and get mad when the boss corrects them because they believe that they should be able to speak however they want to speak to whomever they want to speak to.
But I also believe that there's a version of me that made you feel comfortable with talking to me that way. Like I'm a firm believer that I cannot not look at me first. You know what I'm saying? I got it. Some people, they ain't, I get that part. But what I've seen, and I'm telling you the truth, I've literally witnessed a person talk to another person a particular type of way and then come and talk to me and they talk totally different. I'm sorry. Like, you cross that line if you want to, and you need to know it.
And I agree. I do know those people, but I also know people, and this is why and maybe because I know these people and I deal with them on a regular, that I feel like that's where she's coming from. But I know people that just believe that they're supposed to be able to talk to whoever they want, however they want. And when you correct them, they go, I know you ain't talking to me. No, I'm absolutely talking to you.
And that's those people you deal with
accordingly.
Scared. And because that same situation when I was younger, having to officiate funerals, our funerals. Oh, I hated it. Because you done told these people you got 2 minutes to say all this stuff about this person in this box. 2 minutes. And then they get up there talking about when they used to push him on the swing and we grew up and they was a good young boy and all this other stuff. And it's like you got 15 people in line waiting to tell this that they could have told last night. And when you get up there to correct it, they're looking at you like you're wrong. They're looking at you like you're being disrespectful. No, you're disrespectful because especially in the military community, especially when it's a military funeral, you got to be at the cemetery at a certain time. They doing in and out. So I'm trying to be respectful for the family's time and their wishes. So I have a job to do. And whether or not you get offended at me doing my job, that's never my concern. We gonna skip that and we go on to the next question.
Hey, real talk, real quick. Like, look, I'm just gonna keep it real. If you're in a job like that, leave. Find you another job. That's always the answer. Like, I like what Nadella said, like, deal with them scarcely. I'm dealing with them scarcely while I'm applying for about 25 jobs sitting at my desk. I mean, like, what? I don't get that. I'm sorry. It's just me.
Yeah, if you accept it, they're going to keep giving it. Next question. What are some ways that you can validate their perspective as being valuable? And that's valuable to you, valuable to the relationship.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit back on this one for a little bit and let some other people go first, because when that part said the valuable part, your perspective might not be valuable. So I want to wait and see what you guys got to say, and then I'll know on the bone a little bit later.
I'll say it like this, and I'm gonna turn over Gaddy. It's an old song that was out years ago. No, baby, I'm not gonna be able to do it.
You silly. Well, nah. So hear me out. I know y'all probably gonna get me in the back office. No, I'm joking. But hear me out. If I am going to validate their perspective as being valuable, I'm assuming that the relationship is extremely important because because if we're business partners, your opinion is valuable to the business, right? If we're in a marriage, your opinion to what's going on in the marriage, or what's not going right in the marriage, is valuable, right? So I believe in those scenarios, to where the relationship makes your opinion valuable, and sometimes it's valuable to hear your opinion and know that, okay, you're not gonna make a decision on this this thing, but it's valuable, right? But in the sense that, all right, something needs to change because the relationship is more important than my feelings or me having my way. Sometimes the way to validate is your action, right? One, let them know that you heard them, and if it's something that I don't agree with, let's sit here and have this conversation. Now this is the conversation. I value that opinion enough that I think we should discuss it. And I'm not just going to throw it away because I disagree. Or if I understand that me adhering to your opinion or your feelings on the matter is the sake of our relationship going forward, then something has to happen. Whether it's me, you, or the opinion, whatever. But making something happen, I think, shows that perspective is valuable.
All right. I think I got something. All right. So, what are some ways that you can validate their perspectives as being valuable? So, I'm going back to the title: an authentic conversation and stronger connections. So, I'm married. I always want to have a stronger connection with my spouse, right? So, one of the ways I think you can validate someone's perspective of being valuable is very simple. Tell them, simply tell them your perspective is valuable. If me and Shell having a conversation about something, regardless of what it is, it could be something that's very minuscule, or it could be something that requires a great deal of brain power. Either way, her perspective is valuable, whether I agree with it, whether or not it's trash. I don't mean in a negative way, but what I'm saying is that even if it's a trash idea, it still may be valuable because now I know what she thinks and how she thinks about this. Maybe the reason why she thinks it's trash or is because my presentation of the information is trash. I haven't communicated effectively, and that's why she thinks that it's trash. So I think at the end of the day, we talked about in the military about having leaders. Even bad, you can still learn something from the bad leaders. You may learn how not to be. So I think in the sense, as I'm looking at this as a stronger connection and as an authentic conversation, I think on a simple note, the easiest and simple thing you can do is just to let somebody know that their information, their perspective is valuable. And I think that all perspectives are valuable when it comes to stronger connections and authentic relationships.
Hurricane Helene. You now I'm because I'm about to prove a point. Like you said previously, when there needs to be a situation of urgency, and then the person say, "Well, I think we should do this," and you're saying like we're going to do this. Their perspective is it valuable now?
See, that's why I kept going. I'm coming up with scenarios like that too.
That's why I struggle with the word. Hold on. That's why I struggle with the word validate.
Yeah.
This is where the issue is in this question. I know that's what the world teaches. The world teaches validating someone else's feelings, validating someone else's perspective. But if your perspective is rooted in truth, truth validates itself. Truth don't need validation. when your perspective reflects the truth, again, it's already valuable. I think a lot of times what this equates to is that if I say something and you do it, now that validates me. That validates my perspective. That validates how I feel. But is that just another form of manipulation? Because outside of you doing something in relation to what I'm saying, my next response to you could be, well, I just want to be heard. So we got to be careful with the word validate. Listen, you have to be to the point to where you're secure. Let's start there. If you're not secure, then what ends up happening is that we have these other types of connection styles, disorganized, ambivalent, so forth and so on. And so now what ends up happening is that that other person makes you responsible for validating how they feel, validating their perspective, and they get to determine what valuable looks like. So I'm gonna drop that there and then let y'all continue with it.
See, I agree to a certain extent with you, Coach. But when you went to the if hurricane coming and then now, we're not having a conversation. I'm giving out instructions. So
It sounds like what you're saying is that you agree with me to the entire extent.
Well, that situation, it may be situational to that extent, but if we have sat down and we're having a conversation, and for me to validate that I'm valuing what they're saying, I'm paying attention, I'm listening. That's where I'm going with it because I'm validating it because I don't have my back turned and I ain't not paying attention. I'm not watching TV. I'm listening to what they're saying. And if I don't understand what they're saying, or if I may have misunderstood, I will ask them to make a correct. Did you mean this? Or that lets them know I'm listening to you, and it validates
until they feel you aren't. That's the point I'm making. Like everything you just said equates to respect and active listening. But if the person now gets to determine what value looks like, then now it's subjective from their perspective.
I think value is determined by the relationship.
And I think that's where the problem is right there. It's it's the relationship part because I believe, and my ladies love me, please, when I say this. 'Cause I believe sometimes when we're talking about relationships, a lot of women, you use the term validate of opinions or what have you. But I think the problem is not that my information or that my thoughts or my perspective is not valuable. I believe my perspective is valuable. But if I'm in a relationship with you, it's not you validating whether or not I have a good perspective. It's validating the idea that you value it. And when the relation when that listen, I understand where you're going with control. But if we have if we have a business, right, and this is a relationship that if we have a business together and we're going in business, we both putting our money in and we both, doing our part. And you're consistently saying, "Yeah, I hear you, but we're gonna do this instead." All right, we're not discussing it. This is our business. If you want me to be a silent partner, then maybe that should have been a conversation ahead of time. Or maybe if not, and if I'm not here to be a silent partner, I want to be involved in running my own company, then maybe we don't need to be in a relationship together. And so I'm not going to go hunting for you to validate my perspective or my opinion. But when you show me that you don't, it has to be addressed. And I think that there's a difference there versus you making me feel like I'm smart. I shouldn't depend on you to feel valuable. But if I know you don't value me, then something needs to be said or something needs to change.
Right. It's the same way when you give the topics. You just say, "Hey, your perspective is, I'm gonna see what it is when we come here Friday," and that's showing that you respect that person. Now, nothing was said about it, but the very act that you just handed over and say, hey, if you need me, call me or whatever, that's a level of respect that now we can receive and say, okay, I know he's entrusting me with coming with something that is valuable to the community as a whole. And we gonna beat that one in the dead horse later because that watch is ticking. You had something else, Coach?
I was about to say that's not the same thing, but okay. You good.
Okay, last question. Can you give some listening techniques that will relax the environment?
I'm taking a page out of Garfield book. Shut up.
And I'm gonna take a page out of Roland's book. Be attentive, right? So when there's a conversation come up, and maybe I shouldn't necessarily be playing a game, right? So I can pause or stop what I'm doing for a moment to have the conversation. Sometimes being attentive, sometimes more specifically, I'll say this: body language. Body language. A lot of our communication is done through body language. So what our body is saying and what our body is speaking to the other person, I think there you go, is one way, is a listening technique. It's
I
all
feel
maybe
like
goes.
I feel like we just described overcompensating again. I'm joking. I just want to keep this with y'all because I love my brother, so I got it. Right. But I'm just gonna agree right there because anything else definitely is over not compensating. Can't even get words out.
And another tool when listening, sometimes you can listen simply just by listening with your ears or by how you respond. Because if you respond to what they're saying, it lets them know, hey, I'm actually paying attention. And I think we have this thing where we want them to say, or we expect that we know what's coming out of their mouths, where you're not really listening. And some people do that thing where, well, I knew what you was gonna say because you say it all the time. Well, you're not listening to me at the moment. You've heard a conversation that we had before, and now you're replaying it in your head instead of listening to what I'm saying now. So I say not going back to previous conversations and listen to the current conversation that you're in. And man, it's been a crazy conversation, and it's been one that I think is valuable. It's been crazy in a good way because I think sometimes people think that everything has to be, no, we should all have opinions that come to the forefront where we can dialogue about them. Like even I didn't get to this one point was when you're talking about conversational threading, when you're talking to a person, I can ask Dwayne, hey, where you from? And he can just say, hey, I'm from South Carolina. And he left it at that. But the threading comes because he's showing that he's engaged in the conversation. He doesn't just tell me he's from South Carolina. He doesn't just tell me he's from here, but he tells me the neighborhood he grew up in, how it was, and so forth and so on, that he's knitting something together to now I get a vivid picture like, man, that's something where it's similar to where and how I grew up. And that will make the conversation for me easier. So now I can open up and say, okay, if he's like that with this, now we have some similarities. So the conversation can move forward where I don't feel like I'm beneath or I'm above or whatever, or he's above. The conversation can flow. And that's one of those good things. I respect people's time and I'm appreciative of you showing up. Y'all showed up and y'all showed out in the chat. Y'all didn't have as many questions, so we didn't have to dig over in that region. I respect these brothers for giving their opinions on this topic, because the conversation piece is something that some of us think that we're perfect in. Some of us think that we need some work, but we all can use some work in this area, because when it comes to speaking and listening to other people that aren't like you, that you want to have a valuable connection with, that's where the rubber meets the road. So if I value this connection, now I will move in a certain manner. So thank you for showing up. And tomorrow, Dwayne, I'll let you tell what's coming up, because I'm gonna mess it up.
All right. Yeah. Tomorrow morning, 10:30, we have the reframing the image of relationships. So right here, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that would be myself, the voice of reason, Miss Queenie Love, and the Love Doctor. So yeah, make sure that y'all show up. It'll be a good conversation.
And it's something tomorrow afternoon too?
No.
No?
College football, man.
Okay.
He threw me off with that one. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so we appreciate you for coming out. We appreciate your time and your chats and everything in between. I respect my brothers, and I appreciate them for showing up and showing out, giving valuable information that's going to allow us to eat on this throughout the week, where we're going to sit up there and be writing some stuff down and thinking about what Coach said, what Gaddy said, what Unc said. And then come next week, we may have some questions, we may have some answers, but we'll be better simply by having a conversation. So until next week, see y'all on the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's how we're gonna do it this week. See y'all on the next one.
We'll